you got?
Doctors, I think we're just going to have to stay, you people aren't talking, stand, and then we'll go from there. It's a little bright out there. Y'all gotta get more like. Well, you know, I already fixed the flags when I got here. You know, woman's duties around all these men. Somebody's got to do it.
I wish, that was the thing. I always wanted to be 6
All right, y'all. Are y'all ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah. Is everybody else ready? All right. So, welcome. We want to thank y'all for being here this afternoon. And this is a joint press conference with myself, the Albertville Police Department, the Marshall County Juvenile Probation Office, the ARAB Police Department, and Albertville City Schools to address the incident that occurred yesterday afternoon at Albertville High School and an incident that occurred before that has resulted in criminal charges. I'm here today to announce that the District Attorney's Office has issued warrants and that a judge has in fact signed warrants for the arrest of Giovanni Jean Pierre, age 16. He is a student at Albertville High School and was the student in possession of the firearm found yesterday afternoon. He has been charged in adult court through the automatic transfer law due to his age and the nature of his crimes. He is charged with a 4-count warrant at this time. The first count is robbery in the first degree, alleging that Mr. Jean Pierre used or was in possession of a deadly instrument or a dangerous weapon in the theft of the firearm that he possessed at the school yesterday afternoon. That is a Class A felony, and if convicted, Mr. Jean Pierre faces 10 to life in prison. And again, I think it's important to state that the gun that he was in possession of yesterday afternoon was in fact a gun that was stolen earlier in the early morning hours of September 23rd of 2024. The second charge is assault in the second degree, alleging that Mr. Jean Pierre caused physical injury to the Albertville High School school resource officer when the school resource officer was attempting to apprehend him on September 23rd of 2024. This is a Class C felony offense with a range of punishment of 1 year and 1 day up to 10 years in state prison. The third charge is certain persons forbidden to possess a firearm, a minor in possession of a weapon. That is a Class A misdemeanor with up to 1 year in jail. And the last charge is resisting arrest, for physically resisting arrest when the school resource officer was attempting to place him under arrest yesterday afternoon, and that is up to 1 year in jail. These are obviously very serious offenses, with the most serious offense being the robbery in the first degree, the Class A felony, the most serious offense in our criminal code. Typically, individuals charged in adult court, district court, or circuit court have the right to a bond, a constitutional right to a bond. However, a couple of years ago, a NIAS law was passed by our legislature, which states when certain offenses are committed, people no longer have a constitutional right to a bond. And one of those offenses is robbery in the first degree. Based on this fact, the warrant that was issued today by Judge Christopher Abel has a no bond listed on the warrant, and Mr. Jean Pierre will be held with no bond at this time. And the state will seek that he will be held with no bond until his trial, and we expect that that will occur in this case. At this time, we're going to have the Albertville Police Chief, Butch Carty, talk to us about the events that led up to what occurred yesterday, and then after that, Dr. Bart Reeves, the superintendent with Albertville City Schools, will talk about his staff's involvement in this case. When they're finished speaking, I will come back up and give you some closing remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is J.T. Carty. I'm the chief here at the Albertville Police Department. This whole thing started yesterday around 1:15 in the morning with the robbery that occurred in ARAB. A Hetzler and Koch MP5 .22 caliber pistol was stolen from a young man over in ARAB. It was taken at gunpoint. And I would like to remind everyone, or just to let everybody know, this weapon was lawfully obtained by the victim. So this gun is the one that actually wound up on our campus. So after the robbery, information was put out to law enforcement concerning a suspect who had been developed in this, and it was indeed the gentleman that was arrested, Mr. Devon Jean Piero, also known as Gio. So that information being put out, our school resource officer picked it up, alerted school administration because he was discovered to be a student at the Albertville High School. They continued all day yesterday looking for him, was not able to locate him on campus. It's understanding that he wasn't on campus, but later in the day, around 2:50 that evening, he shows up on campus, and coaches there notify school resource officer. So the school resource officer goes to have a conversation with him because he is a person of interest in the robbery case in ARAB. After a confrontation there, the gentleman did not want his backpack looked into. You can read what the Albertville school system put out, but there was a confrontation between SRO officer and the young man. I would like to thank school staff for stepping in and assisting in the apprehension of this young man. After the backpack was searched, indeed this same weapon was found in his backpack that he had brought to campus. So that's pretty much how we got to where we're at. There's nothing to lead us to believe this young man brought that gun to the campus to do any harm. He had just had it in his backpack after stealing it the early morning hours. So.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. My name is Bart Reeves, Superintendent, Albertville City Schools. Appreciate all of you being here this afternoon. First of all, we want to commend the actions of Officer Lucero, Albertville High School Assistant Principal Croft, and Coach Brown for their quick response in questioning and later apprehending a student through immediate and appropriate force. I also want to extend a sincere thank you to the administration of Albertville High School, including Principal Stephen Hudgens, for their swift and diligent efforts in reviewing camera footage, interviewing witnesses, and ensuring the continued safety of our students. Their quick actions were crucial in handling the situation, and we're grateful for their dedication to maintaining a secure environment for everyone on campus, including our staff and also our students. At this time, I'd like to cover the timeline of events that transpired yesterday. Yesterday morning at 7:04 a.m., the student arrived at school without the backpack that later contained the gun. Around 9:40 a.m., the SRO was notified by Albertville PD, by ARAB PD, that the student, Giovanni Jean Pierre, known as Gio, was a person bringing weapons to school. Parents, we ask for your support in communicating this to your children. School safety is a shared responsibility, and we need your help. Reassurance and confidentiality. We understand the concerns of parents, and we want to reassure you that your children are safe. This was an isolated incident, and we have taken all necessary precautions. However, we cannot share specific details about our safety plans, as keeping that information confidential is crucial for maintaining school security. And finally, I want to be clear that the student involved in this incident will never be allowed back on campus at Albertville High School. We take these matters very seriously, and we have a zero-tolerance policy for any threats or actions that compromise the safety of our students and our staff. Their removal is a necessary step to ensure the continued security and well-being of everyone in our school community. Since this is an active investigation, the details we have shared today are all that we can provide at this time. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement, and we will continue to prioritize the safety of our students and staff. Parents, I just want to remind you again, talk to your students about making threats at school. We're going to treat all of those as credible. We're going to turn it into Albertville PD and see what happens from there. But again, talk to your students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Mr. John Pierre is currently being detained at the Juvenile Detention Center because yesterday, when we did not have all the information developed about the robbery, first degree, the Class A felony, he was detained on those lesser charges, which would have had him in juvenile court. However, because the warrants were issued today for the Class A felony out of adult court, that takes jurisdiction to the adult court, and he will be taken into adult custody at some point later this afternoon, and will at some point make his way to the Marshall County Jail, where he will be detained pending his trial in this case. I think it's important to emphasize or reiterate some of the things that Dr. Reeves said. It's important to emphasize the fact that this backpack that contained the weapon that was found was not on the premises of Albertville High School until around 2:40, 2:50-ish that afternoon, later that afternoon. It was not on campus all day. Secondly, this was not a case which was a result of school threats being made or of a person threatening to do harm to the school or to students. It was a case where the student or a suspect in a robbery happened to be a student at Albertville High School. And police were looking for him to question about that robbery that occurred off campus and in fact had nothing to do with the high school. And it was through that questioning that things took a turn and officers were able to discern that there was a possibility there was a firearm in his possession, and then they were able to take that off of him very quickly. I just want to say that it's because of the training of the Albertville Police Department, the SRO, and because of the leadership and the training from Dr. Reeves at Albertville City Schools, as well as Principal Hudgens and Assistant Principal Croft, and the heroic actions, frankly, of Coach Brown, Assistant Principal Croft, and the SRO officer, that made this situation end in the way it did yesterday. Yesterday could have been a completely different day for our community, but because of the heroic action of those three men to confront someone who they knew had a possibility to have a weapon on them, they did that without any hesitation. And because they did that without any hesitation, he was apprehended quickly, and everyone was able to walk away yesterday without there being any kind of catastrophic results. So we want to thank them for their continued training and professional development, and we want to thank them and commend them for the actions that occurred yesterday at the high school. At this time, that, as Dr. Reeves said, it's an ongoing investigation. And as y'all know, when investigations are ongoing, we're not able to divulge all the information we have or that we want to at that time. We do expect there may be other arrests in connection with the robbery case. So not in connection with anything that happened on the school campus, but that there may be other arrests in connection with the robbery that occurred in ARAB in the early morning hours of September 23rd, 2024. When those arrests occur and we can make those public, we will do so. But at this time, because it's an ongoing investigation, we're not going to take any questions, and that's just all the information that we can divulge at this time. We want to thank y'all for coming.
Yeah, we did. Hey,